A bell rattles and rings out from the crow's nest as the thunderstorm rages on. Thrashing waves throw the ship, your ship, the Soulbringer, and its crew all about as you struggle to hold on. Roll me a dexterity saving throw.
Sure. It's an 18.
Nice. Sliding down the deck, you manage to lock your arm around some rigging by the mast, but you see your wealthy client you've been transporting home over the starboard side, clinging on for dear life.
Wait, how urgent is this?
Well, he told you he can't swim, so yeah, pretty urgent. And overboard! The crew cry out as your client drifts down and out of sight.
Do you have any sea shanties?
Last week I ran session 1 for my new campaign, Wisteria Ungovernable, and I wanted to try something new for my players. I opened by throwing them all into their own mini-quest scenarios to tackle before they all come back together again. Each scenario was very distinct and unique from each other, but both with the style of adventure and also just the atmosphere I'm trying to convey. And to quickly immerse them into each unique scene, I paid close attention to the music, and it made all the difference. Music is one of those things that kind of adds a little bit more work to most dungeon masters and game masters, and it doesn't seem like it's that important. You know, you can just put on a playlist and just leave it in the background, salon style. But if you really want to enhance some of your storytelling experiences, both, you know, as a dungeon master, but also as players together, I think music can be a really useful and worthwhile part of the process. But yeah, it can be a bit more work, so I'm going to give you 5 just basic tips to help introduce you to music and game mastering. Number 1. Firstly, what you want to do is just find the music. I use Spotify playlists. I look them up and I find 5 categories of music that I want to use at some point in my session experience. The first one is waiting room, and that's just music that you want to listen to get into the mood before you start playing. It doesn't have to be a specific style, it's just anything that gets you and your players into the mood of playing D&D. I have one that's kind of classic rock, very 70s Gygax-esque D&D experience, and I have one that's a little bit more just kind of lo-fi waiting room stuff. And the 4 other folders filled with themed playlists I use are combat, exploration and adventure. These are really varied, but they have a general feel of that you can take your time and enjoy it, and there's no sense of urgency. Tension and mystery. Well, you know, if you're in the middle of a dungeon and you want to feel that eerie uncertainty that comes from being in this dark, unfamiliar place, then you can tell from the sound, from the music, that it really resonates there. And cities and towns, taverns and busy markets, but this is a lot more musical, you know, it feels more like a walking through the city montage. You have a lot more melodic lines, a lot more to hear, to really make it feel excited and filled with action and filled with just general things going on. And you can really tailor these playlists to your own cultural inspirations. It doesn't have to be just a westernized mentality. You can use old Taiwanese folk music to help really get you invested in maybe an Eastern style setting. Or if your world is filled with old kind of spaghetti Western style stuff, there's plenty of Morricone to work from. Number 2. So now that you've got your folders filled with playlists, you're going to want to make them part of the prepping. If you have a few ideas of what you want to do with your session, make some markers to know that you would like to change the playlist from, city and towns to something a little bit more creepy and mysterious if you enter this strange abandoned tavern that had been haunted by a ghostly bartender, for example. Make those little markers, maybe even add a link to the playlist, or just keep them in mind as you go. Whatever you're going to do for your session, really put yourself into the moment. Think about what you're hearing at that time. Think about what really makes it feel impactful. And when that ghostly bartender attacks, very simply ask everyone to roll initiative, and in this time, whilst they're counting and figuring it out, you can just prepare the combat playlist and you're ready to go. But of course, it's D&D, so anything can happen. Players could derail and go somewhere completely different. What if they would prefer to make friends with the bartender to drink some ethereal rum? Number 3, listen to your players and try to anticipate the shifts in mood. When the players begin to change the course of your storytelling, then lean into it and make that music a confirmation that this is the direction they're going. Number 4, randomize on a theme. More often than not, a well-timed music cue is just down to complete luck. I've so many times popped on a playlist in the middle of a very tense moment, and as the moment continues on and it builds and it creates this narrative momentum, something hits in the music, maybe like a drop, like a boom. Everyone senses this moment and they can't help but notice. It's nothing to do with my skill as a dungeon master. It's entirely to do with the classic coincidences of the moment, which is the best part of storytelling, leading into these coincidences. Of course, if they ask, then yes, it was intentional. But an important note in this is that if you can tell as a DM or as the players that that particular track isn't working on that theme, whatever's going on, it's okay to skip. If you feel like a lull going on in one of the combat tracks, you can just move it straight to the next one, and usually it just jumps you back into a really high-paced, intense, percussive, rhythmic experience. Most of the time, players aren't actively listening to the music, but that's not really what it's for. It's for ambience. It's for an atmosphere that immerses the players into the story without them even really understanding. 5. Lastly, don't panic. There's a lot that goes into being a DM. It can feel a bit like DJing is just another chore to add to the list of many things to do. But you can use it as a tool to inspire your own creativity and your players' creativity. Just like any other aspect of the game that players are more than willing to pause for, like rule checking and player decisions and bathroom breaks. It's a low risk, high reward element of the game that no reasonable player would demand perfection from. So for my first session, we had 5 pretty distinct adventures. The first was a volcano heist. I used really tense music, but a little bit of kind of that Godfather-esque tension. The second one was kind of a tavern gambling table. The beginning was a lot of tavern music, very cheerful, very fun, raucous. And then when certain moments hit where they realized there wasn't going to be as easy and that tension had to come, I added some tense music in there to make it feel like there were really higher stakes than there actually may have been. My third scene was a ruined temple investigation. It needed to be shrouded in mystery. This dead space of the wreckage of something that had happened in this temple and abandoned finally. There were lots of eerie tones of death, a lot of lingering energy that needed to be portrayed. My fourth was a classic ship in a storm, Pirates of the Caribbean style, mad swashbuckling adventure. I wanted high energy and I just popped on a randomized combat playlist, and of course the first thing that came on was Pirates of the Caribbean theme, which every time gets people going. I don't care who you are, it's so good. And my fifth was a kind of tomb raiding experience, starting with a bit of exploration. It wasn't scary per se, but you never knew what was going to happen. And then into some tension, if you could hear the rattling of the Mole King's tomb as he slowly wakens. As everything hits that climax and the Mole King erupts from his tomb and all these moles scatter around. Combat. The combat feel to me is more than just fighting each other. It's high pace tension. It's like escaping or running away or chasing something. It just feels like your heart is just immediately racing. And as a DM, it really enhances my ability to think fast and be part of the action. And as long as you trust yourself with the pacing, you can really just let the ideas flow out of you with the music. This is my magnum opus from the final session of my 2-year campaign I previously did. It was pretty epic, but I wanted music to really play a big part in it. The music didn't just feature game soundtracks and Lord of the Rings. I also really wanted to splice in pop culture stuff. I wanted to make people feel energized by songs that they recognized. I wanted personalized songs to really hit home for all of these people who had spent so much time with their characters. So I'll pop in the description below a breakdown of these folders and this series of playlists and the purposes, why I chose them, what they're for, and what kind of effect they had, so that you can maybe try to formulate your own. The important thing is, music isn't an essential part of the role-playing experience. It's theatre of the mind, after all, and this is just another tool that you can use, just like minis and maps and props, to help best immerse your players. But yeah, that's it. That's me. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate the chat. Okay, see ya.